All right, welcome in. That was an embarrassing national championship game. I think that's why we prefer the National Football League these days. 65-7, Georgia over TCU. What a waste of time, man. Well, you thought you're going to have some good football leading into the weekend, give you maybe one day here to pass the time before Wild Card Saturday, where the 49ers kick things off against the Seattle Seahawks. You were wrong. You didn't get it. That game was over by the second possession. But the good news is that we're here to talk about 49ers Seahawks right now. And we'll have a nice show here. Really wrapping up the 49ers season and then spinning it forward to the 49ers postseason. Because I was just digging through some of the numbers of this 2022 49ers regular season run. And, we've been doing it all season long, but the final product now, especially when you start looking at some of the splits before and after the Christian McCaffrey insertion into the starting lineup, is really staggering and explains why the 49ers, they're not quite NFC betting favorites, but they're right behind Philadelphia in a way that you don't normally see from a team that doesn't have the home field advantage, right? Philadelphia has the number one seed and the 49ers are number two. Some books have the line as even between the 49ers and the Eagles, but the 49ers are slightly behind the Eagles. And I think obviously the Jalen Hurts health situation plays into that. He did play this other day, but we still need to see him in a full playoff pressure cooker. But more so than that, the 49ers surge plays into their favorable odds to win the NFC Championship because they've been better than the Philadelphia Eagles for more than half of this season. And that's the half that's most recent. Ever since acquiring Christian McCaffrey, it's indisputable. The 49ers have been better than the Eagles. Now, obviously, the Eagles aren't the team that they're playing this weekend, but I'm just talking about the NFC field in general. It's the Seahawks this weekend. The 49ers have also been better than them. And why don't we take a look at some of the numbers? First, this is the one that I went over yesterday. 49ers are number one in the NFL in turnover margin. And turnover margin is something that is extremely important when games ratchet up the pressure. You have to be able to protect the football and you have to be able to take the football away. And the 49ers have such an emphasis on this. They have a meeting every Thursday where they just sit there and they emphasize protecting the ball and taking the ball away. And Nick Sorensen, who's one of their defensive quality coaches, a defensive assistant, he is in charge of this meeting. Kyle Shanahan has a dedicated meeting entitled The Ball, and they call Nick Sorensen the Ball Father. So I wrote about the Ball Father in this story, and the Ball Father did his job this year when you look at the 49ers turnover differential. This is their turnover differential since 2017, by the way. So red is below average, blue is above average. Here in 2022, the 49ers finished number one. The lowest amount of giveaways in the entire Shanahan era, 17. And the highest amount of takeaways in the Shanahan era, 30, 20 of which came via interception. So if we're looking at this statistically, that's the first spot that really, really should impress us regarding the 49ers. Now, the 49ers also finished with the NFL's top defense. So let's check this out. Let's look at all the defensive numbers for the 49ers. They finished number one in points per game, allowing 16.3. Yesterday during the press conference, Nick Bosa, sadly to say, I didn't have the yards per game number ready for me, but maybe Nick Bosa likes to channel. We're sitting in a pretty crowded press conference room, and Nick Bosa, somebody asks a question about the 49ers defense finishing number one, and Nick Bosa really wanted to know if the 49ers defense had actually finished the regular season giving up the fewest yards per game. And then he goes, "We're number one in yards, right?" And he just turns to me. I'm sitting in the very back and he just stares at me and he's like, "Right, we're number one in yards." I'm like, "I don't know if you're number one in yards. I haven't checked yet. I do know that you're number one in takeaways. I know that you were number one in turnover differential. I know you're number one in some of the advanced metrics, like points aren't advanced, but I know you're number one in points. And obviously you could see here on the screen, the 49ers are number one in EPA and DVOA, but I wasn't sure if they're number one in yards. So we looked it up on our laptops there and let Nick Bosa know that the 49ers were indeed number one in yards allowed per game. So Fred Warner was also wondering about that during the course of the week in the locker room, if the 49ers would finish up in number one in yards per game. So there you have it. The 49ers did finish up number one, giving up 300.6 yards per game. They gave up 16.3 points per game, which was number one. Rushing yards per carry, tied with the Tennessee Titans for number one, giving up 3.4 yards per rush. DVOA is defense adjusted value over average. So this gets more sophisticated. So this is going to factor in opposing competition. Overall DVOA, 49ers number one. Against the run, number two, behind only Tennessee. Against the pass, number five. So a little bit worse against the pass. EPA per play, number one total defense. And points per drive, points allowed per drive, 1.48, 49ers number one. So let's just, look at this in the big picture. The 49ers set out to have a top two or top three defense this year. That was important to them. Because last year they leaked oil defensively, even when they were playing better in that NFC Championship game. They were obviously on a roll at that point of the season, but their cornerback position did get roasted in that football game. So the 49ers wanted to get better defensively. They wanted to put up elite numbers. As you can see here, they did put up elite numbers. There's a big difference. Put this up one more time. There's a big difference between the number one or number two defense in the NFL and the number five or number six defense in the NFL. If you're in the number one or the number two defense in the NFL, your EPA generated per play, which is down here, this one, that will end up extrapolating to like at least 10 points per game. So your defense is essentially worth 10 points per game. If you're the number six defense in the NFL, it could be more than that, by the way. It could be like 13 or 14, but I'm saying around 10 points per game. If you're the number six or number seven rated defense in the NFL, you're probably only netting like 2 points per game defensively, just a little bit above zero. There's a lot of mediocrity in the NFL. So you want excellence. You don't want just good, because good is closer to mediocre than excellence, right? So you want to be away from that good number six, number seven. If you want to be a true bona fide contender, you want to be number one or number two defensively. And the 49ers absolutely accomplished that this season. There were naysayers. There are people who were skeptical of the 49ers' ability to deliver in this kind of fashion during the preseason, during training camp. But I think we saw out on the field during training camp that the 49ers defense could really be something special. I mean, they had 19 interceptions over camp, which is the most of the Shanahan-Lynch era. They ended up with 20, and their 16 camp practices. They ended up with 20 interceptions over 17 regular season games. So even the interceptions, a lot of people said, oh, it's just Trey Lance throwing a bunch of picks. It's like, this is a tough defense. They're intercepting Jimmy Garoppolo back when he was doing training camp for the 49ers too. They were intercepting Brock Purdy this year as well. And Brock Purdy next year with more reps in training camp, I'm sure is going to get intercepted by a strong 49ers defense. I mean, this defense will pick you off. This defense will make quarterbacks who otherwise don't throw a lot of picks throw picks. Trey Lance didn't throw picks in college. He threw a lot against this defense. Jimmy Garoppolo this year had his third lowest interception rate. He didn't throw picks in training camp because he was off on the side field. And Brock Purdy also had a good interception rate in the games, but he did throw. I mean, he was still a rookie at the time that was just coming into the league, so it's hard to gauge there. But it was an interception fest for the 49ers defense back in August. And with that interception fest happening, the question was, is this the fault of the 49ers quarterbacks, or is this a credit to the 49ers defense? And the answer ended up being, this is a credit to the 49ers defense. 30 takeaways, including 5 interceptions for this guy, Tashaun Gibson. He's not the ball father. The ball father is the assistant, Nick Sorensen, but Tashaun Gibson is the 49ers leader in interceptions. 5 for him, 4 for Talanoa Hufanga, 3 for Jimmy Ward. How about Jimmy Ward? Jimmy Ward had 2 interceptions through his first 7 seasons and now has 5 through his most recent 2 seasons. So coaching for the 49ers, the pass rush, obviously all that, but the 49ers have started to ball hawk. And it's because their defense is operating in cohesion. D'Amico Ryans, I think, has upped the aggressiveness from what Robert Saleh was running. A few more blitzes, maybe some better time blitzes. We saw a lot of Fred Warner blitzes this year. And on the back end, they're mixing up coverages and not just sitting back in zone all day is giving the 49ers some more opportunities to confuse opposing quarterbacks. And that's why they led the league with 20 interceptions this year, tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers for that number one spot. All right, let's move on. Post Christian McCaffrey 49ers splits are elite. Let me find some of these for you. I tweeted a bunch of this, so you can go to Lombardi himself on Twitter. Here's another key nugget about the defense. The 49ers defense also enjoyed the most favorable average starting field position of any defense in the NFL. Opposing teams started on average at the 25.6 yard line of the 40 of their own. Yeah, not of the 49ers. That is the best or worst average starting field position, but for the 49ers defense, the best average starting field position of any defense in the league. So that's a testament to complementary football, right? We talk about the importance to play good, sturdy defense, but on top of that, you have to move the chains offensively, not go 3 and out all the time, and you have to play good special teams. All three units have to work together. And the fact that the 49ers defense was number one in the league, but also was gifted the best and most advantageous field position of any defense in the league means that it was being supported by the offense and defense this season. And that is a very, very important note to make because complementary football has been the name of the game for the 49ers. All right, so now we're going to take a look at the Christian McCaffrey 49ers week 8 to now DVOA ranks. This is going to be offense and defense. Take a look at this. This is special right here. We could play the Vince McMahon. He was special clip for this. The week 8 to 18 49ers were special. Total DVOA, again, defense adjusted value over average. This is factoring in strength of schedule and ranking against all the other NFL teams. 49ers, the best team in football. Look at this, 51.6% above average. That shouldn't happen in the NFL. In college football, I could expect Georgia to just destroy TCU, but the 49ers were destroying average NFL competition. So that total DVOA mark is comprised of number one offense, number one pass offense, and look at this, 60% better than the average pass offense. Number 3 rushing offense, also significant because the 49ers started the season struggling before Christian McCaffrey on run offense. More on that later. Number 1 defense. They were number 1 for the whole season, but they obviously kept it up weeks 8 to right now. Number 4 on pass defense, number 4 on rush defense. And then here, icing on the cake, number 7 on special teams. Remember that the special teams unit was number 26 last season. So new coordinator, funny enough, he has had Seattle ties. Brian Schneider has come in and made sure that the 49ers aren't screwing it up on special teams. Now we look at McCaffrey's value. Look at this. Rush offense, number 3. Before McCaffrey showed up, that is weeks 1 through 7, before he played, in 7 he played, but he didn't play a starter's arsenal snaps. Before Christian McCaffrey took that starting lineup, the 49ers rushing offense was ranked number 26 DVOA. The rushing efficiency was objectively bad before Christian McCaffrey showed up. And then Christian McCaffrey did show up, and after that, they were number 3. So from number 26 for the 49ers to number 3. Absolutely sensational, and that split right there is the bedrock of Kyle Shanahan's offense. If that running game is efficient, he could run so much more of his passing game off of it, and it's no surprise the 49ers were 60% above league average, or number 1 in pass offense, and that's even with a third-string quarterback coming in down the stretch because the rush and the pass worked symbiotically. Number 1 in pass, number 3 in rush. Somehow, some way, Christian McCaffrey was not a Pro Bowler, but you can just see the impact that he made right here. Just absolutely staggering stuff from McCaffrey. I have one more for you here. This is an overarching look at the 49ers over the season. This is point differential. They beat the Arizona Cardinals by, what was it, 38-13, 25 points. It's a blowout, right? Nice blowout for the 49ers over the Cardinals. Well, look what it did. 49ers finished the league number 1 in point differential. This is their highest point differential since 1995, when it was plus 199. Although I probably shouldn't tell you that the 49ers lost their first playoff game in 1995. So it's going to be important that they avoid that fate. But the 49ers, with their plus 25 day, passed the Bills, who are number 2 at plus 169. The Eagles considerably far behind at plus 133. The Chiefs plus 127 and the Cowboys plus 125. So the 49ers over the course of the whole season have the best point differential in the league. I will show you team tiers because I know that you all love team tiers. These can be distributed in many different ways. First, we'll look at it this way. This is the entire season. Offense is x-axis, defense is y-axis. You want to be up and as far to the right as possible. Well, and you can see the diagonal lines divide the team tiers. It is the 49ers, the Eagles, the Buffalo Bills, and the Kansas City Chiefs as the top 4 teams in the National Football League over the course of the whole season. You could see where the 49ers defense does work here, ranked at the very top y-axis. The offense also very good, but not at the same level over the course of the whole season as the Eagles, the Bills, or the Chiefs. Now, there are really interesting splits that I'm going to go to here. Let's see these. Oh, I just lost it. Gonna have to reopen this. We're going to go week 2 onward now because it's going to be more predictive if we don't include the monsoon game, which Trey Lance started in week 1. Obviously, the 49ers offense under Garoppolo and Purdy looks a whole lot more like the offense right now under Purdy than the one that they played in Lake Michigan in week 1. So if we lower or reduce the split to just week 2 onward, look what it does. The 49ers remain in tier 1, but we've cut out some of the week 1 games. This has actually hurt teams like the Bills, who had a great week 1, but the Bengals, who had a bad week 1, the Bengals and the 49ers have a nearly identical profile. Really good defenses, and the Bengals a slightly better offense than the 49ers. So Cincinnati a little bit better than the 49ers since week 2. Kansas City, well, it's a worse defense, but they're still in that top tier. So according to this, Cincinnati is the best football team. Okay, now, since the Christian McCaffrey takeover, this is where it gets really fun. The Christian McCaffrey takeover is in week 8. This is what the 49ers team tier splits look like. Week 8 to 18. 49ers are the only top tier team. The Bengals are just underneath them, but they're underneath this divided diagonal line. Kansas City has been actually playing good defense over the back half of the season, but this is absolutely something to monitor because the other NFC contenders, like the Eagles and the Cowboys, so-so. They're third, even fourth tier teams. And then there's the whole bunch of mediocrity over here. It's a lot of crap over here, right? But at the top of the league, you have the 49ers and the Bengals and the Chiefs playing good football. And that, to me, this is a triumvirate that, might be the one that you should be looking out for. Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes out of the AFC, 49ers trying to work out of the NFC. Obviously, the Rams aren't part of this mix anymore. But last year, you add the Rams, and this was your Final Four. Said the Rams are way down here, like a 10th tier team. At least they're ahead of the Texans, though. Texans all the way over on the left. But this illustrates it well. And this is why the 49ers are getting so much love entering this postseason. It's because they're way up here. They led the league in point differential, and their post-Christian McCaffrey addition splits have been absolutely insane. They don't have a weakness. They're great on offense. They're great on defense. They're good on special teams. Right there, there may be there might be a minute weakness within the structure of the defense. We talk about Diomedor Lenore, for example, but the more I see that play yesterday, the more I think offensive pass interference on AJ Green. But still, yes, there are cracks. No team is perfect, but in relation to other teams, which is what EPA and DVOA especially is going to measure, opponent adjusted kind of stat. In relation to other teams, the 49ers have been a top 5 efficiency team through and through, with special teams at number 7. So it has been spectacular for the 49ers, and that is how they enter this game against the Seahawks as nearly 10-point favorites on Saturday. I'm going to go through a quick little news report from today for those of you just joining. I put the news report up a little bit earlier, several hours earlier. And I wrote a big feature. It's going to be coming out this week, but um, make sure you go check that out. Make sure you're subscribed and everything so you see those when they come out. But there was some maneuvering today, at least as far as announcing injuries from Kyle Shanahan, and we will take a look at the roster as part of this exercise. In fact, I'm going to get the roster ready for us right now. Make this thing nice and wide. Let it cross over the entire screen. And here you go. Here's the 49ers depth chart and roster. And let's go through some of what we found out today. 49ers backup linebacker, but special teams ace, Demetrius Flanagan-Foles, is a neck sprain. He is day-to-day. So you see Foles right here. He's behind Alshire, Greenlaw, Fred Warner, but he's more of a special teams guy. Number 4 in the NFL in special teams tackles for Demetrius Flanagan-Foles. 49ers hope for Aaron Banks, who's right here, and Dre Greenlaw, who's right here, to return this week. Banks dealing with, at the starting left guard position, dealing with knee and ankle issues, and Dre Greenlaw dealing with a back sprain, or back strain, I should say. Aaron Banks, I talked to him in the locker room on Friday, and he said that he's gunning to be back this week. I didn't see Dre Greenlaw around the locker room last week, but supposedly the 49ers are feeling much better about him now than they did immediately after the injury in Las Vegas. Other news, this is outside of the roster. The men who built this roster, though, Adam Peters and Rand Carthon might interview with Tennessee. Tennessee has requested permission to interview the 49ers, two of their executives in the front office for the general manager position. John Robinson was in that position for Tennessee, but he got fired. I mean, there was a lot of mismanaging, especially of the wide receiver spot there with the Titans. And then D'Amico Ryans has Denver has requested permission to interview 49ers defensive coordinator D'Amico Ryans for their head coaching opening. We go back to here and we note that Deebo Samuel and Elijah Mitchell are both healthy. It's big. Deebo Samuel right here. Elijah Mitchell right. Oh, I got to take Elijah Mitchell off IR. Why didn't you guys tell me? Jeez. This thing is behind. All right, how are we going to do this? We should put Ty Davis Price down here. Put Ty Davis Price here, label that he's a running back, not a fullback. We're going to put Jordan Mason right here, and we're going to put Elijah Mitchell back on the 49ers 53-man roster, off of injured reserve. By the way, nobody else can come off of injured reserve. 49ers have used all 8 of the return designations. And there we go. Ty Davis Price is also a rookie, so I could color code him accordingly. Boom. There we go. 49ers roster back up to 53 men. The counter's down here. It says 53. So McCaffrey, Elijah Mitchell, Jordan Mason, Ty Davis Price. Nice looking backfield. 2 rookies, 2 veterans, plus Kyle Juszczyk, the fullback. Tevin Coleman rounds out the depth on the practice squad. When we take a look at this roster right now, you don't see a whole lot of pink, right? And the 49ers hope to remove Banks, remove Greenlaw from the pink. And that means that you're going to be looking, and Flanagan-Foles too, means that you could be looking at a roster that, at least the active roster, is fully healthy with the exception of Jimmy Garoppolo up here, who won't be ready this week, but could insulate your quarterback room in good fashion a little bit later. Garoppolo never went on injured reserve, and that broken foot, the 49ers are still hoping for a late playoff return. That matches up with our original reporting on the subject back when he broke his foot, because the 49ers initially thought it was a Lisfranc fracture, which would have been a several-month thing, maybe a 6-month thing. The standard fracture has meant that we're now in that 6 to 8 week window where he's starting to put weight on the foot. He's been doing pool rehab. Obviously, they're doing whatever they can to get that bone to heal as quickly as possible. And then as soon as he is ready to go, then the 49ers can get a nice boost in their quarterback room. So that's the 49ers roster check-in. Make sure to check it out. I'm actually going to copy and paste the link for this and throw it on to the comment section for all of you so you can check it out. Are there questions about Kalia Davis? I just looked at the comment section. Kalia Davis is healthy. The 49ers likely will not call up Kalia Davis. They would have needed a defensive tackle injury to do so. Tomorrow is the deadline to call Kalia Davis up. He is still on the NFI list, but he's practicing. And if you look here, I don't see anybody that they would call him up for, right? T.Y. McGill healthy. Kerry Hyder healthy. Kevin Givens is going to be back this week. I just took him out of the pink shade. Javon Kinlaw has been playing for the 49ers. So, and then you have Michael Dwumfor on the practice squad who was called up and recovered a fumble the other day. So I think the 49ers are good to go on the plan, which has been to redshirt Kalia Davis, will continue moving forward. All right. It is time for 49ers Q&A. Let's talk. We're 25 minutes in. Have some fun with this. Given should be back this week. Mike is correct. Kinlaw will be playing. Yes, Kinlaw is playing. Somebody said Kinlaw is not playing. That is not true. No, the Kalia Davis contract does not roll. He's been under contract for a year. He was just hurt for this year. So that's the first season of his contract is gone. How much to bring back Tashawn Gibson? Probably not that much. I don't think it will be that much. So we'll see. I mean, he's going to be a 33-year-old safety. Spencer Burford doesn't have color coding on the spreadsheet. It means we better fix it. That's because he was hurt. The reason he didn't have color coding is because he used to have color coding. I put it in there and then I took it off because I put in the pink color coding instead of the rookie color coding. So now Burford has his color coding. Hope everybody is satisfied. Question about Kinlaw's pitch count. I need to look to see what the snap counts were. I actually didn't look too closely yet at the Arizona game just because it was kind of a exhibition-like performance based on who Arizona rolled out there. I mean, it was a sitting duck head coach, right? Cliff Kingsbury, his last game before getting fired. Let's see what the 49ers snap counts in this game were. I'm going to see what Kinlaw was at, see if they upped it a little bit here in week 18. Might not have, just because they're arresting a lot of guys and they might have used it as a way to a little bit. 22 snaps for Kinlaw. So the first game was 15. The second game was 20. 22 snaps for Javon Kinlaw. Thanks for the good question. I can't see it anymore. I should have put it up on the screen. No, Christian McCaffrey played in the playoffs his first season, wild card round back in 2017. Didn't make it back to the playoffs since then, but his rookie year with Carolina, Christian McCaffrey was in the postseason. You know, Christian McCaffrey actually began his NFL career at Levi Stadium. His first game in NFL was Kyle Shanahan's first game as 49ers coach. It was Carolina, San Francisco, September of 2017. So, he didn't do anything spectacular in that game. Cam Newton was still the quarterback. That was the only year that Carolina made the playoffs while Christian McCaffrey was there. Yeah. How many times has the head coach been fired after playing the Niners this year? 2? Yeah, I would hope only 2. That'd be crazy if it was more. Carolina was nuts because that Matt Rule was in season, right? Matt Rule was back in week 5, right after week 5. Arizona, I think we were expecting this to happen to Cliff Kingsbury. Now, the more impressive stat is that teams lost their following game, if it was played in the very next week, against the 49ers, all of the season. So 0-15. Teams after playing the 49ers this year, in the week after, were 0-15. That's the first time in NFL history that has happened. It's a testament to, just the physical prowess that this 49ers team showcased. Really, really impressive stuff. They left some bruises, and I really think that 0-15 stat is a testament to that. No, the 49ers will not trade Trey Lance. You're not going to get a commensurate return for him at this point because the league has only seen him hurt, really. He's only been in for a few games. If you're not going to get a commensurate return for Trey Lance, then you don't trade him because you want quarterback depth. You still want to develop him. You're still excited about what you can get from Trey Lance when he does heal up. And it's always good to have more quarterbacks. This has been this year of quarterback option power for the 49ers. If they didn't have Garoppolo on top of Lance, and if they didn't have Purdy on top of Garoppolo, the season would have gone down the drain. So this season has proven that stacking the quarterback room with depth can be a saver, right? And next year, they're going to have Purdy and Trey Lance both on rookie deals. You don't even think about trading either one of them. You're going to get maximum value of those two guys on rookie deals. Yeah, I mean, I think Rain would benefit the 49ers more in this game from the standpoint of, yes, they are the running team, but they're also the top pass DVOA since McCaffrey came. So they do it all. I think in general, you don't want crazy weather conditions when you're the better football team because weather can be an equalizer. But in this case, I get it. Yes, the 49ers have been smashing people on the ground here over the past month or so. So, I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win handily under any weather conditions against this Seahawks team. And the 49ers would also have a big dead cap hit if they traded Trey Lance, because Lance, as a top 5 pick, commanded the number 3 pick based on the rookie wage scale, commanded a big signing bonus, something I think $30+ million signing bonus, which is amortized over the 4 years of his contract. If you trade or cut him now, all of the signing bonus that hasn't yet hit the cap, that's been spread out over the contract, hits now. So there would be a big dead cap hit if the 49ers got rid of Trey Lance. It's a non-starter. They're not doing it for financial reasons. And they're not doing it for intelligence reasons. I mean, you try to keep as much quarterback firepower as possible just because of injuries. But on top of that, you still need to figure out what Trey Lance is all about. You invested all this in him. He's been hurt. He could still be a really good quarterback. Nobody knows yet. That's the problem. Everything's just been in limbo so far with Trey Lance. Will the 49ers be able to re-sign Brandon Ayuk? That's a really good question. It's going to be a fascinating offseason. They're going to be up against the cap, but they're going to be a really, really efficient cost-wise in that quarterback room if Jimmy Garoppolo's not back, between Lance and Brock Purdy. And that could open up some stuff elsewhere. A Nick Bosa extension obviously is going to cost something for the 49ers. That has to happen. That's mandatory. Other guys need to get paid. Somebody earlier asked about Tashaun Gibson. Gibson's probably only going to be a short-term deal kind of thing because he's 33 years old if they do bring him back. Will be 33. He's 32 right now. And then you look at somebody like Brandon Ayuk, who needs to absolutely be viewed as more of a fixture for this 49ers offense. 1,000-yard receiving season for Brandon Ayuk definitely ups his marketability. That's what he got. And he was the most targeted 49ers receiver by far this season. I mean, Brandon Ayuk was fed target after target after target this year. Christian McCaffrey might have finished number 1 had he been with the team for more than half of the season. But the point remains. The 49ers love Brandon Ayuk's ability to beat man coverage. Some of the separation statistics on him are really, really impressive. And having that man-beating receiver in Kyle Shanahan's offense really ends up serving as a cheat code of sorts, because you have McCaffrey as a field spacer, outlet man. You have your man beater in Brandon Ayuk. You have your bulldozers in Deebo Samuel and George Kittle. You have your high pointer, jump ball, play fake guy in George Kittle in the red zone, 3rd down, 11 touchdowns for Kittle this year. I mean, you have a piece that can do everything, right? You have specialties all over the field. But if you don't have that man-beating specialty, you're going to really struggle against teams with good corners. And Brandon Ayuk, I think, successfully at least occupied some of the best corners in the game this season. And his 1,000-yard campaign certainly was valuable for the 49ers. The 49ers do have the top point differential in the NFL. That is amazing. I put that up a little bit earlier. Plus 25 against the Cardinals pushed the 49ers ahead of the Bills for the number 1 spot. Jimmy Garoppolo is a free agent, and so is Jimmy Ward, although you spell his name a little bit differently. What is the Seahawks' biggest strength against the 49ers? Special teams. The Seahawks have a top 5 special teams unit. 49ers did well in week 15 to neutralize that. But if there's one big equalizer, potentially, it can be special teams. It was last year. The good news is the 49ers special teams unit is a lot better this season under Brian Schneider. Wow, I didn't even know this number. The 49ers have 24 free agents after this season. That's a good stat. I mean, NFL rosters really do turn over quickly. You have to be ready for the churn. And I think the 49ers are. The cap is going to be going up again. They're efficient in the quarterback room. They do have a lot of star power under contract, and that's only going to increase when Nick Bosa signs his new deal. And it's only going to increase if somebody like Brandon Ayuk stays with the team. But in general, it looks like these contracts have been sound because the players have continued producing after getting them. They added McCaffrey to the payroll, obviously. He's going to be a bigger number than he was this year. So it's a top heavy roster, but the 49ers have still done a better job than a team like the Rams, who are completely collapsing now, because even with the top heavy roster, they maintain draft picks and they're hitting on some of those draft picks, especially, the lower rounders, the fifth rounders. You can credit the scouting department. Probably Rand Carthon and Adam Peters are getting interview requests from Tennessee, but they've hit on those, margins with some of those lower draft picks to fill out the star power of the rest of the roster on a cost efficient basis. And we're going to see the 49ers try to replicate that feat again this offseason. What I do for dinner? I did a burrito today for dinner. Papalote. Big Niners and Giants fans over at Papalote. It was good. Different type of burrito. It's not your pure mission style burrito. A little bit more modern, but just what I was feeling like today. It was a really hard day at work, so I put my head down and got that done. Please tell me that Greenlaw is retainable. Greenlaw already signed an extension, man. Dre Greenlaw, early this season, the season was already underway, re-signed with the 49ers. He's under contract. He absolutely is retainable. Am I going to Seattle on Saturday? I'd be in the wrong place. If I showed up to Seattle on Saturday, I'd show up to an empty stadium. The game is in Santa Clara. How do the 49ers keep Adam Peters? Technically, you can make John Lynch the team president. I don't know what you'd do with Al Guido then, though. Al Guido currently is the 49ers team president, so you might have to have some role restructuring, and then you make Adam Peters the GM. But, that would all just be a title shift. I think that if Adam Peters is going to get a job elsewhere and take that job elsewhere, he's going to do it because that job, A, obviously pays better, higher role, but B, he actually has control, final say over a team's personnel. And Adam Peters currently doesn't have final say over the 49ers personnel. That still belongs to John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan. So even if there is a promotion, if John Lynch is still around, it might only be a promotion in name for somebody like Adam Peters, who's currently the assistant general manager. That's his title. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to do a show from Kezar, though, this week. I'm going to walk by, if it's not raining. It's been raining too much. But if the weather is decent at some point in the playoffs, knock on wood, I think it's going to be better at some point, right? Right now, it just seems like downpour day after day. But if we have some good weather, I'll go back to Kezar Stadium. Maybe I do Candlestick, too. They still have a sign there that welcomes you to the parking lot of Candlestick Park. And I could do some predictions or a quick show at Candlestick Point. And I could also do one over at Kezar Stadium, the 49ers' former stadiums, before we watch the game at Levi's on Saturday. Robbie Gould is a reliable kicker. You're going to have to make sure that you have an option there moving forward. But we'll see what the 49ers do, as Gould obviously is moving up in age. Somebody said El Castillo. They are awesome. Still has the best aside. Well, El Castillo also has a really good Al Pastor. They got the spit there with Al Pastor. El Castillo is really, really quality. Audition 5 to 6 kickers in camp. That'd be wild. They'll probably either re-sign Gold if he wants to continue kicking for a year or two, or go to a bigger name free agent, because it's a luxury that the 49ers have gotten used to. General reliability at that kicker position. I know everybody still remembers the miss against Vegas about a week ago, but Robbie Gold has done a good job for the 49ers in general. They've been really happy with him, despite some of that contractual drama here over the course of all 6 years of this regime, ever since 2017. He's been here for a while now. Yeah, only 10-point favorites. I mean, let's go back to 49ers Seahawks. We could talk about this a bit. The 49ers absolutely smashed the Seahawks in week 2. They would have smashed them if not for the Nick Bosa roughing the passer penalty that nullified the Deommodore Lenoir pick 6 in week 15. So I don't see what's going to change in the wild card round. Seattle would have to go on a big turnover fest. Special teams would have to do something crazy. Special teams did something crazy for Seattle in week 2, and it still didn't matter, right? The 49ers still ran away with that football game. So I think we're looking at an absolute situation where the 49ers are in a spot where they are much, much better than the Seahawks, and it would take a mega upset from Seattle to win this game. No, minus 10 over under 43.5. Yeah, so I would say 27-17 is kind of the expectation there. That's the betting, expectation. I would say that the 49ers win by more than that. Rain can mess some things up. Bet at your own risk. It did. We're getting over 1,000 people here now. It was last playoffs where we really got the channel going. We really started having some fun with it. Now we get 1,000 people in here, everybody hanging out on a Monday night, having a good time. Everybody can crack open a beer and we could talk some 49ers football. It's going to be an earlier bedtime for me tonight. I'm going to get geared up. I mean, the week starts tomorrow. There is no day off this week. The day off this week was today. And I was busy writing a feature story on Trent Williams and Nick Bosa. It's going to be coming out this week. Hopefully everybody can check it out. So I didn't have much time off. I have to get back out to the facility tomorrow, and we've got to do this all over again. What is the best path for the 49ers to get to the Super Bowl? You beat the Seahawks. You beat, I don't know, the Vikings. I don't know what it's going to be with all the reseeding, but it could be the Vikings. If they'd win, it will be the Vikings. And if, Tampa Bay or Dallas takes out the Philadelphia Eagles, then the best path to the Super Bowl for the 49ers would be at home at Levi Stadium against the Buccaneers or the Cowboys. That would be wild. That would be certifiably insane if you had Brady or Dallas come in to face the 49ers in the NFC Championship game. But, I mean, it might have to be through Philadelphia. We'll just see what happens. Mike Urtaza. Mike thinks he's Al Davis. Just win, baby. I don't know. I don't know if they bring back Deshaun Gibson or not. I mean, they were very happy with him this year. That's for sure. A lot of it will depend on the draft and the 49ers plans with rookies and development and do all that good stuff. Are the 49ers great drafters or better developers? I think it's both. I think you have to draft guys who you believe you can develop and who you do successfully develop. And, the 5th round is great because there you find players who aren't obvious picks. If they're obvious picks, they would have gone in the first 2 rounds. So you go down in the 4th, 5th, 6th round. That's where you pick the guys that you think you could plug into your development system. You've got to have both. You got to have prudent, good drafting, and then good development on top of that. Thank you. What is Brock Purdy's career ceiling-wise? What is his floor? I mean, I think his ceiling is what we're seeing right now, and that's not an insult. He's the top-rated passer in the NFL over the course of his time playing this season. So that's a good ceiling. Purdy, 112 passer rating, throwing on the move, throwing accurately, quick release, smart, avoiding interceptions. That's really good. The floor, I mean, he's been a little wobbly on some throws. He's been, a little bit dangerous on some throws. I think he's had some interception luck. So I think the floor resides where that luck turns against him and he's a little less efficient. I don't think that the floor is that low, though, right? So that's the good news about Brock Purdy. I think he's been one of the really, really notable surprises of this NFL season as a seventh round pick, just a player who is playing really good football. Somebody said that his ceiling is Drew Brees, and that would be an awesome ceiling. It's a Hall of Fame ceiling. I don't think he's quite that accurate yet, but he's just quick. I mean, the thing, you can't really pigeonhole Brock Purdy into one spot because he's really quick. He's athletic. He can move around. That's why Steve Young was starting to do the Mahomes comparisons. He doesn't have as strong of an arm as Patrick Mahomes, but Brock Purdy is Brock Purdy. Just let him be himself. And because if Brock Purdy just beats Brock, just does Brock Purdy, that means he's the highest rated passer in football ever since he took over. And the 49ers have put up at least 35 points in 4 of his 5 starts. So, I mean, this guy's cooking. He's cooking with gas. And that is quite the ceiling for right now. Red Eye thinks that Brandon Ayuk would be cheap. 4 years, $12.5 million a year. Ugh. I don't know if you get him at $12.5 million. Receivers go for a lot, man. I think you may have to be ready to pay at least 15 for Brandon Ayuk. Think about it. Christian Kirk went for 17 million a year. It's going to be hard to get Brandon Ayuk for 12.5 a year. That was to the Jaguars. Really? They used the soundbite? All right, I'll watch that. It's on the 49ers site. I'm going to have to check that out. The 49 hours video. I'll check it out. That's awesome. They take it from the YouTube channel? That'd be sweet. Do I see the secondary playing more conservative in the playoffs and sending help to Lenore? I mean, they already have been. Against the Raiders, they didn't as much, but the Raiders had a special skill, a special collection of skill weapons that was really able to strain Deommodore Lenore and the 49ers secondary, and especially Lenore's relative lack of height. The 49ers, when they start playing teams that have multiple quality receivers, it's hard to send particular help in any which way because then the number 2 is going to roast you, or whoever doesn't get the extra attention because you're sending more attention Lenore's way. There's going to be a vulnerability there. I think it's important that the 49ers play things straight up. That means that you could have Charvarius Ward trail an opposing receiver like DK Metcalf. He did so really well in Week 15 against Seattle. Have Charvarius Ward eliminate an opposing receiver on 70 to 80% of the snaps when it makes sense, to allow the rest of the secondary to play nice balanced defense, give everybody a little bit of confidence. But first and foremost, that pass rush has got to be disciplined and it has to be effective. Rush has to fuel coverage. This is a defense that relies on all 11 pieces to fire in cohesion with each other. Corey Unlin, DC job. I haven't heard of him as a candidate. I don't know if that would be an aspiration of his. So I don't think so. He's the cornerbacks coach right now for the 49ers. But it is an interesting question. Obviously, we're hearing a lot of Vic Fangio. I still have some ties in the Bay Area. Mark Pfeiffer misses DJ Jones. And that's what the 49ers are excited about Clea Davis for. They think that he could be a lot like DJ Jones as far as explosiveness moving forward. Who's the best and worst matchup in the NFC and the AFC for the 49ers? Well, the Eagles, they're the best team in the NFC outside of the 49ers, and the Chiefs. They've already beaten the 49ers by 21, and they beat them in the Super Bowl a couple years ago. It's a tough matchup. Usually to claim the hardware, you've got to beat the biggest boss, and the biggest boss might be the Kansas City Chiefs, who've been playing good defense over the course of the past 8-9 weeks, right? Which makes them really, really scary because we know Mahomes is the best in the game. Rematch of Super Bowl 23 and also a rematch of 2 Super Bowls, right? 49ers, Bengals, those 2 of the 49ers' 5 Super Bowl wins. We thought we might get it last year, but the 49ers couldn't take out the Rams. All right, guys, we're at 50 minutes. 50 minutes. I'm getting tired. You want a 49ers versus Chargers rematch, huh? That'd be the last time the 49ers won a Super Bowl. That'd be crazy. All right, it's time for me to call this, guys. It was a good time. We went through everything. We had a 49ers roster check-in. We had a news check-in. And the 49ers play the Seahawks on Saturday. Thanks for joining. Sub to the channel. Sub to The Athletic. Look out for my work coming out this week. There's a lot of it. It's going to be fun. Everybody, take care.